We need to have a chat about this video here. Now, when I first saw this, I honestly couldn't believe what I was hearing for so many different reasons, and I'm going to do a breakdown, but if you've not already seen this yet, let's just roll the clip.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Since you bring it up, why don't we just start there? Dr. Verma, I wasn't sure I understood your answer to Senator Moody a moment ago. Do you think that men can get pregnant?
I hesitated there because I wasn't sure where the conversation was going or what the goal was. I mean, I do take care of patients with different identities. I take care of many women. I take care of people with different identities. And so that's where I paused. I think, I wasn't sure where you were going with that.
Well, the goal is just the truth. So can men get pregnant?
Again, the reason I paused there is I'm not really sure what the goal of the question is.
The goal is just to establish a biological reality. You just said a moment ago that science and evidence should control, not politics. Absolutely. So let's just test that proposition. Can men get pregnant?
Yeah, so this is what we're doing today. I find it so crazy that she's making it seem like it's such a complicated question that's going to take her a lot of time and effort to answer, when really it's just such a simple question based in reality. But the man who's conducting this hearing here, he must be the greatest person for the job, because you're going to love how he conducts himself. The best thing for him to do in this situation, because she's clearly trying to dance around the question, is to just keep asking the question over and over again to try to get a response out of her. It's a simple yes or no question. Watch how she handles this.
I take care of people with many identities, but
can men get pregnant?
Many women that can get pregnant. I do take care of people that don't identify as women.
Can men get pregnant?
So clearly she's acting like it's just too complicated of a question and she can't figure out how to answer it. He didn't ask her, what kind of patients do you care for and what kind of identities do they have? He asked you a simple yes or no format question. Can men get pregnant? Now, I don't know about you, but when I see someone feel the need to dance around a question this much to this extent, do you not think they must know in their heads that they're doing something wrong? Otherwise, you would just answer it in the way you feel it should be answered. And also, is she really the best representative for the left-wing liberal community they could have come up with to answer this question in this hearing? Like, could they not have summoned up someone who has a better response, like a more comprehensive response, like what they'd normally give to a question like this? Like, it's just ridiculous that this is the girl they chose to do it. If she's so clearly trying to be on the side of the trans community, as she is, why is she not just giving the usual answer that these people would give? Like, no, typically a man can't get pregnant, but like a woman who transitioned into being a man could still technically get pregnant. That's also an acceptable answer. He probably would have been okay with that, but she can't even do that for some reason, which makes it so strange.
Again, as I'm saying...
Let me just remind you what you testified to a moment ago. Science and evidence should control, not politics. So, can men get pregnant? You're a doctor, I think.
Science and evidence should guide medicine.
Do science and evidence tell us that men can get pregnant? Biological men, can they get pregnant?
I also think yes/no questions like this are a political tool.
No, yes/no questions are about the truth, doctor. Let's not make a mockery of this proceeding. This is about science and evidence, and I'm asking you. The United States Supreme Court just heard arguments yesterday at great length on this question. This is not a hypothetical question. This is not theoretical. It affects real people in their real lives. And you're here as an expert, called by the other side as an expert, and you've been telling us that you follow, right, you're a doctor.
She's a doctor. She's a medical doctor, and the hearing is not about belittling the trans community or coming on the attack. It's about women's safety. It's about how, where, and when it might become a safety issue for women to allow specific rights to trans people. This is the type of hearing that should be had. It can't just be like brushed off. The conversation needs to be had, and people from both sides of the argument need to be a part of that in order to reach a conclusion, right?
And you follow the science and the evidence. So I just want to know, based on the science, can men get pregnant? That's a yes or no question. It really is, I think.
I think you're trying to reduce the complexity of a lot.
I'm not. I'm trying to get, it's not complex. I'm trying to get to an answer, and I'm trying to test, frankly, your veracity as a medical professional and as a scientist. Can men get pregnant?
I think you're also conflating male and female with...
No, I'm not conflating male and female. They're two different things. There's biological men and there's biological women. And I want to know, can men get pregnant?
Exactly. He's right. There are biological men and there are biological women. That's just a fact of nature. If you want to throw in there, oh, but there's also trans men and women, just say it. Why isn't she saying it? She must be the worst representative for that community I could possibly imagine.
What you were talking about is
You're not going to answer my question, it sounds like to me.
biological males.
This isn't hard, doctor. Can men get pregnant? Yes or no?
Again, I would be more than happy to have a conversation with you that is not coming from a place of trying to be polarized and push
I'm not
people.
trying to be polarizing. I'm trying to ask, I think it is extraordinary that we are here in a hearing about science and about women. And for the record, it's women who get pregnant, not men.
Do you know what she sounds like to me? She sounds like a child who just got caught doing something they shouldn't be doing. She sounds like a guilty child. Am I wrong?
It also,
We are here about the safety of women and science that shows that this abortion drug causes adverse health events in 11% of cases. That's 22 times greater than the FDA label, another fact you haven't acknowledged, and yet you won't even acknowledge the basic reality that biological men don't get pregnant. There's a difference between biological men and biological women. I don't know how we can take you seriously and your claims to be a person of science if you won't level with this on this basic issue. I thought we were past all of this, frankly. I can't believe we're still here talking about this.
So going back to what I was saying earlier, this is very clearly an important discussion to be having. She, as a medical doctor, is not providing the medical opinions that they need to hear in order to reach an actual medical conclusion on the issue. They're discussing an abortion drug that has the potential to cause adverse effects in women. What is stopping a man from identifying as a woman to then obtain this drug and force onto a woman they may know who would otherwise be unwilling to take it? That is a potential hazard. That's something that needs to be foreseen and discussed in hearings just like this. And she's not providing the expert opinion she needs to provide for them to reach a logical and reasonable conclusion on the issue.
I am a person of science, and I'm also someone here who's here to represent the complex experiences of my patients, and I don't think polarized language or questions serve that goal. I don't think they serve the American people.
It is not polarizing to say that there is a scientific difference between men and women, and I want this to be clear and for the record. It is not polarizing to say that women are a biological reality and should be treated and protected as such. That is not polarizing, that is truth. It is also, by the way, the United States Constitution, which offers unique protections to women in a variety of circumstances as women. And your refusal to recognize women as women and men as men is deeply corrosive to science, to public trust, and yes, to constitutional protections for women as women. And I think it's extraordinary that you would sit here and advance a political agenda that has been thoroughly discredited and rejected by the American people in this forum. And I'm glad we had this exchange because it is exceptionally clarifying. It is also in many ways quite depressing. I see that my time has nearly expired. I just want to thank the other witnesses for being here. Thank you for protecting women and children. Thank you for your valiant efforts. Thank you for following the science. And thank you, Mr. Chairman, for this hearing.
So that's that video there. In my opinion, an absolute masterclass in conducting a hearing like that on behalf of that guy there, but an absolute embarrassment on behalf of that lady there. Like, that was just painful to watch. So this one here is just another big reason for why I chose to distance myself from left-wing ideology. As a matter of fact, I consider this aspect of it to be far left, but it's the way they just base claims completely outside of reality and expect you to follow along. And if you don't, they come on the attack, and they're so vicious in the way they do it as well, and I don't want to be a part of that. Take, for example, this medical doctor we just watched. I think the reason she was so apprehensive about answering is because she was just so terrified of saying the wrong thing. When they do answer this question on behalf of liberals, they need to tread so carefully in how they answer, because one little misstep and they'll just come after you on the attack, and she knows that. Much just like liberals in general, I think the trans community specifically are not doing themselves any favors in being accepted by the world, because they're just asking for too much. Like, they would actually be angry with you if you did not admit that men could get pregnant, which is just ridiculous. There are other ways to go about your movement that don't involve making the entire world bend over backwards and forget everything they've ever known about the definition of a man or a woman just to suit your needs. I'll tell you now, I actually do think there probably is such a thing as medically diagnosed gender dysphoria. Mind you, I think that number represents a very small fraction of the people identifying as trans and expecting all these changes from you. I believe that for the larger proportion of them, there's much more to be said about why they feel the way they do. To a degree, I think it's definitely some sort of a social contagion. I think that's evident when you speak to the teachers who have 30% of their classroom suddenly identifying as trans. That wasn't a thing just a couple of decades ago. If anything, it was a very small number of people. So it's the way they're expecting all this monumental change for something that is probably temporary in the bigger majority of them. That's part of the issue as well. Now let's talk about those changes they want you to make for them and why they're such a difficult thing for the world to accept. So I think the first one we're seeing a lot about in the news recently is men competing in women's sports. And I'll just come out and say it right now. Nobody cares if women want to come and compete in men's sports. It's just ridiculous. But to allow men to compete in women's sports, it's giving a disadvantage to all those women who would otherwise have a fair fight. How can they think it's fair for us to allow an individual from this demographic to just turn up, enter themselves in women's sports, and just take away from what some women work their entire lives for, something they hold so special, so dearly to their hearts, and here comes a biological man and just makes it impossible for them to even compete fairly? It's just a fact of life that men will have the upper hand in sporting events. They are biologically different creatures who will perform differently. There's nothing wrong with that. That's why we separate men from women to compete fairly. It's not a bad thing. It's not a mean thing. It's just a fact of life, and no amount of debate is ever going to change that. And not only are you putting them at risk of having their hopes and dreams ripped away from them, you're also putting them at risk of serious physical injury, and that's happened in the past on numerous occasions. We're just expected to be okay with that? I just can't reason with that. I'm going to keep on talking about this, but I just want to make it clear now, I'm not trying to attack anyone from this community. I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. I want everyone to be happy the way they live their lives, but we're going to have to come to some sort of middle ground here if we're going to progress as a species, okay? For example, if you're a fully grown adult and you want to make the decision to change your outward appearance and identify as a different gender, who am I to tell you can't do that? I don't care. Live your life. Do whatever makes you happy. But where I do need to insert myself into the conversation is when you put children at risk, when you put women at risk, and when you expect the world to just change scientific definitions to suit your feelings. Now, about the whole children thing, we all need to admit there are crazy people out there. That's just a fact of life. There are crazy people. And the rule changes that the trans community expect of everyone allow for these crazy people to do crazy, unforgivable things. I'll give you a really good example. There's a YouTube channel out there called Soft White Underbelly. I suggest you all go take a look. The guy on that channel, he just interviews people from different walks of life who have interesting stories to tell. And on that channel, he has interviews with multiple fathers who unfortunately married a crazy woman, and those women decided before they even gave birth to their children that they were going to be trans. Because for a crazy person, it allows you to virtue signal and get props and kudos from your friends for being such a good, acceptable, forward-thinking liberal mom. A child's mind is young and impressionable and easy to manipulate for a crazy mom. Your child is going to want to do whatever it takes to receive your approval, to receive your love. And that's what these women do. They manipulate their children into thinking they are the opposite gender. And what does that lead to? Well, it creates an absolute nightmare scenario for the fathers in all of these cases. And my heart broke for all of them when I heard these stories. Because, as you know, the courts will usually side with the woman. The fathers were then forced to pay to either castrate their sons or never see their children again. Because if they don't provide what the mother is claiming is medically necessary for their son's mental health, then the state considers them to be an abusive father. So on one hand, they have to mutilate their child, unforgivable, or on the other hand, never see their child again, also unforgivable and unacceptable. But they're backed up into a corner because they married crazy women who were allowed to do exactly this due to legislation put in place because of the trans movement. And I know what some of you might be thinking, like, okay, that's very clearly a fringe case, clearly uncommon, highly unlikely to happen too often, but in my opinion, and hopefully yours too, one case like that is one case too many. And it's a case that could have been avoided if the left were capable of participating in sensible, logical debates without getting vicious, without getting on the attack and trying to cancel everyone that disagrees with them. We could prevent things like that from happening. We could work out a better solution for how we deal with these cases. I'm going to now talk about an influencer from the trans community by the name of Lily Contino. You may have seen this person before, and the reason I want to bring this up is because I actually have personal life experiences that can relate to this. I'll touch on that later, but first, let's have a look at the video.
What started as a trans right movement account quickly devolved into one of the most disgusting TikTok accounts on the platform, with Lily filming girls inside bathrooms, explaining trans operations in Disneyland, and some dark, poorly covered up past comments coming to light. Lily Tino made a name for herself for public outrage and confrontation.
So this is a really good example of how when a crazy person is given too much authority, they can use it to make your life a living hell. Now, what this person would do is essentially they would set themselves up in restaurants, dining establishments, and they would have the camera rolling and set the situation up to be misgendered by the person serving them. What they would then do when the inevitable happened is everything in their power to get that individual in trouble with the place they work. They would ask for the manager, they would demand to speak with them, they would berate them, say, how can you allow your employee to do something this terrible to me? Every time it happens to me, it's like a knife through my heart, and you've allowed this to happen. And basically their end goal was to get that person fired. A lot of the times these were workers from foreign countries who just didn't know any better, who were just trying to earn a living to feed their family. And this person would use them for content, ruin their lives, or at least try to, just to get a laugh out of it.
He's having a nice feast.
She, her.
Okay.
Yeah, it's okay. It's all good.
But it was not all good.
Hi. I use she, her pronouns. I'm not sir. Yeah, like it's like a knife in the heart. I did specifically ask ahead of time not to be called sir. Yeah, I'm just gonna go. Okay. The sweet water starts at okay.
I'm so sorry. I apologize.
It's just always like a knife. It always hurts every single time. I was wondering if there's a manager I could talk to about something that happened. Yeah, I was called sir. Oh, okay. It just really sucks every time it happens. I don't need to be called ma'am. I just need to not be called sir, you know? Thank you. Did you call me sir? I just want to tell you that the person who gave me this called me sir. Called me sir.
Oh.
It's just like, it kind of just hurts a lot to get called sir.
Oh, sorry about that. Okay.
Very good. Thank you so much. No, yeah. Thank you. I'm not a sir. Nothing like a good misgendering. It is a knife in the gut when I get called sir. I feel like I need to tell him. I need to tell him that hurt. It hurts more though, and it's not intentional because it means like this is sir to him.
So that's just a little sample of what this person would do. Kind of disgusting, right? And they were doing this for monetary gain. They were doing this because they were earning a living, getting loads of views, just posting rage bait, and that was basically their living. Ruining people's lives, being a nuisance, and getting attention. But fortunately, their career did come to an end because they did something that we would probably all agree is unforgivable. They went into the bathroom, the little girl's bathroom at Disneyland, while vlogging.
It's not about trans rights anymore. It's about baiting people into hating on her, so she gets ad revenue and attention, and that's literally it. On the 2nd of June 2025, Lily Tino uploaded this TikTok, which featured a ranking of each of the women's bathrooms in Disneyland, taking a selfie in each of the mirrors which featured other people, which I have blurred out as Lily didn't, and a rating of each of the bathrooms. Lily even stated in the final photo that she felt very safe, but the same can't be said about the other people she took photos of.
And that's exactly the issue. The women and little girls in the bathroom had no say in the matter. We're all expected to make the majority of the people in the room feel uncomfortable so that one individual can feel comfortable. And that's just not the way life works. Majority rules. That's how it's always been. That's democracy. The way things are set up right now in the Western world are such that a fully grown 300-pound strongman with a full beard but wearing a woman's dress can walk into the women's bathroom and you don't get to say anything about it. If you do, you're labeled a transphobe, you're labeled problematic, you're attacked viciously, you'll even be cancelled. Let me ask you a question. I'll put it this way. If you're a mother and you have a 4-year-old daughter and you're in the women's bathroom, would you feel comfortable with it if a man like I just described came into the bathroom? I'll tell you now, there's no correct answer to the question. If you say, no, you wouldn't be comfortable with it, you agree with me that it's a problem. If you say, yes, you would be comfortable with it, then you're basically saying you're comfortable allowing the potential scenario for a crazy, fully grown strongman to come in and do something harmful to you and your daughter. There's no correct answer to the question. That doesn't make you look bad. Try to think of another simple yes or no question in which no matter how you answer, you come out looking bad. That speaks to how problematic this subject is. I mentioned earlier that I've had personal experiences that relate to this, and I'll tell you that story. I used to work up north in Manchester, and I worked in an office building with hundreds of people. I actually worked at the same office building as my partner at the time, my girlfriend. Now, in that building was an individual exactly like I just described. A giant, fully grown man with facial hair and everything that would just wear weird feminine outfits, and they would insist on using the women's toilet. But what they would do when they go in there is piss all over the seat. They would basically use the bathroom like a gross man would do, so much so that the women would queue outside of the bathroom waiting for this person to finish. Why is that fair on the majority? Why is it fair that all the women have to sacrifice something so this one person can do something they really don't even need to do? Like, they make it seem like it's the most important thing ever, and without it, they'll die. They'll feel so offended. They'll feel so depressed. But it's really more about a power struggle. It's about giving power to people who would otherwise feel less than remarkable and giving them some sort of self-justification in their value, their worth to themselves. At that same place of work, it was an office job. I had the first interaction with a customer over the phone. This person was a trans person. They identified as trans, but they were clearly born a man. They had a proper, deep, baritone voice to them. And what they wanted me to do was go back to all of their call recordings. They'd called us multiple times. They wanted me to listen to every single time they were called sir over the phone and give them additional cash compensation for every single time it happened. And when we didn't allow them to do that, they called every single day for weeks, just bugging us and pressuring us. I want my cash compensation because the only thing that's going to make me feel better about what happened is money. That's just ridiculous. That's just a sick person taking advantage of the situation we've allowed for this demographic of people in the Western world. And it's sick. That's all it is. The point I'm trying to make is that this group of people are just asking for too much. If they want peace, if they want to be accepted by the world, they need to stop asking for ridiculous things based outside of reality. We don't have to all agree that trans women are women, or trans men are men, or men can get pregnant. They're just words. We shouldn't be expected to change scientific definitions and uproot societal norms just to please a small minority demographic. I'm sure there are millions of incredible, wonderful people out there who identify as trans and don't expect these ridiculous things to be changed for them, and they need to lead by example. There's nothing wrong with being who you are. People are complicated. People don't have to make sense. The universe is under no obligation to make sense to you. Just like everyone around you is under no obligation to tell themselves and everyone around them ridiculous lies just to make you feel happy. There is no denying that the things we allow this group of people to do have the potential to put women and children in danger. There is no denying that it has the potential to allow crazy people to do crazy things. For as long as we live in the reality we live in, that's always going to be the case, and we're never going to be able to come to an agreement on that unless they just stop asking for so much. There's nothing wrong with just living life the way you already can in the free society we live in. Society is the way it has been for thousands of years now because it just works. Why are we trying to change that? I don't want to attack anyone. I don't want to make anyone feel upset. But unless these things can be let go, we'll never return to base reality. Things will never progress. I'm going to end the video here. I'm going to end the rant there. And yeah, a touchy subject, I know, so I'm looking forward to all the comments this one brings about. Thank you so much to all the people that subscribed. Drop a like if you want to, and I'll see you all in the next one.